That's fucking minging, that.
I tell you what, that is fucking men against fucking boys all over the fucking park. They're fucking weak as piss, they are. Fucking weak.
Hello everyone, welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT Player Ratings podcast. It's Gav back again for the millionth time this week, and I'm sat here to discuss Sunderland's drab, irritating 0-0 draw today with Charlton Athletic, joined by Malk once again. How we doing, Malk? Are you well?
I'm good. Not any better for watching that, but yeah, I'm good in general, thanks.
Nice one. And Tom Albrighton makes his first appearance of the season. How we doing, Tom? Or otherwise known as Janine McKenna on Zoom.
Yeah, aye.
Is that your Saturday name, is it?
It is, aye. That's what I wear when I've got my heels and my dress on, aye.
So Sunderland drew 0-0 today with Charlton Athletic. It was a strange game, really. I'm just going to run through what I thought about the game. First half, all right. We created plenty of chances. Danny Graham probably should have scored 2 of the 3 chances he had. Generally dominated the ball. Charlton let us do what we wanted with it, and I think if the fact we didn't go into the half-time break with the lead is pretty disappointing. Second half started more the same. I don't really feel like Charlton threatened us, and then obviously the game came crashing to a halt when Tom Flanagan got himself sent off for I'm going to say a necessary red card. He was kind of left in the lurch. The defence was wandering. He was the last man back, and I think if Charlton had got through on goal, they probably would have scored. And he took one for the team, and that was it. Yeah. So we finished off the game with 10 men, and as you can expect, Charlton tried to have a little bit of a go, but didn't really threaten us. And we ended with a clean sheet, another one, and a point. Malk. What did you think about that? Are you disappointed at full time, or are you just happy we came away with a point?
I'm disappointed because I think we've dropped 2 points absolutely in that first half. It's my honest opinion. Charlton were playing not to lose rather than trying to win. You know, they're obviously in a consolidation period. They're obviously, got their new owner, and they need to kind of strengthen and stuff like that. So I think Charlton will be happier than we are with a 0-0 and getting a point out of it, because that was theirs for us to win. So I'm disappointed we've dropped 2 points.
What about you, Tom? Are you along the same line? Should we have won today?
Yeah, pretty much. I think sort of Martin's hit the nail on the head. Is the position Charlton are in, not had a great start to the season. They're going through a lot of changes behind the scenes, and like you have both pointed out, really, is Charlton didn't really come in today playing to win, did they? They come the sack deep, and so I just think all in all, it really is just two points dropped, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just going to run through some of the 3-word reviews from our followers on Twitter. Kevin Harrison, send strikers please. I think that's fair. Flanagan must go, says Joe Burton. Bit harsh. Same old Sunderland, says Nathan Rutherford. Mike Trainer needs striker fast. Gary Holmes, sign a striker. Adam Royal, blunt up front. Gary Summerson, he says cow's arse, banjo. Pish Logo says strikers can't score. Chris Hughes, the former Love Island contestant, unbeaten start continues, so he's feeling positive. Cameron Johnson, toothless as fuck. Connor Swainston, stop playing Wyke. Adam Curry, strikers desperately needed. And Jake R says move on next. So I think there's the consensus seems to be that our strikers just aren't good enough, Malk. It's another week where we're sat talking about the strikers and their inability to put the ball away. Can you take any positives from the forward line today, really? We created plenty of chances, got into the positions to score, but just another game without goals for Graham.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to matter whether we chuck Graham in there or if we chuck Wyke in there. We tried Graham with O'Brien, and then we tried Wyke and Grigg. Although why we did that, I don't know, because obviously we've tried that for a while and it just didn't work last season.
Well,
did
it kind of just went to pot because of the sending off as well, didn't it?
Of course,
Grigg ended up playing on the wing for the majority of the time he was on the pitch. Yeah,
he was kind of right side of midfield when we went into 2 flat fours, didn't he? But no, I mean we are desperately needing somebody. That third opportunity of Danny Graham's, I wrote in big letters in my notes, donkey, because he could have fell over and hit that with his backside and it would have gone in, and he put it over the bar from 4 yards out, we created the chances, and there's a lot of positivity in that, but I'm not a million miles away from a lot of them 3-word reviews. We're not going to get away with a point with 10 men very often like that. Just like last week, we're not going to get away with, a 1-0 with a penalty against a team like Peterborough very often.
Yeah, Chris Hughes and JR both said, kind of move on, Tom. Was that Is that pretty much the gist of it then? Just, take the point into the next game, decent point away from home, all things considered, with 10 men, or do we dwell on a performance like this? Is there anything really to dwell on?
Yeah, I think there is a lot. Well, not a lot to dwell on, but one thing that's reared its head again is just how toothless we are up front. Is the problem just seems to continue rolling over and over and over, and I think it's becoming abundantly clear now to more and more people that it isn't necessarily the strikers we have at the club, because it doesn't matter who we've got between Greg, Graham, Wyke and O'Brien. Everyone who seems to come in is having the same problems, is the contributions up front aren't good enough, but I'm not entirely sure how much of the blame you can lay at their door, purely because the service they're getting it's subpar really. We had a lot of the ball, we had a lot of opportunities to get the ball in. We did have a few opportunities, but you look towards Charlton, it seemed, for all they didn't really want to get in our half, when they did put the ball into the box, it was a decent quality ball into the box more often than not, and their strikers had something to go at. And you kind of just look at the likes of Graham and O'Brien today that had very, very little to go off. So I think it's, with the lack of goals we scored so far this season, it needs addressed, and it needs addressed sharp. Otherwise, it's going to start to bite we're in the arse as the season draws on. Yeah,
another clean sheet though, Malk. That's the main positive to take, I would say. The defence was great again. I don't think Burge really made a save, did he?
He didn't. No, he had very little to do. But, going back to Tom's point though, I mean, fair enough, the service isn't fantastic. But even that one in the box where Graham, he was hacking and slashing at it, trying to put it away after we, created an opportunity. He was kind of, 4 or 5 yards out. He had 09 absolutely standing on his own, 6 foot to the right of him, so they've got to get their heads up and create and take these chances as well. Goalless, fair enough, looking back, would we want a clean sheet away to Charlton? Absolutely. But yeah, that's one positive out of it. The defence had very little to do, but then they should have had little to do, because Charlton weren't really bothered about attacking that much, apart from the odd pop, as Tom mentioned.
Yeah, it was a strange performance from Charlton, actually. I mean,
very odd.
Yeah, considering they're the home team and we traditionally don't look to play on the front foot, I wouldn't say we're a counter-attacking team, but I think if a team wants to play against us, they can. We would quite happily sit back. Where it was the opposite way around today. They kind of sat off, and their most creative players couldn't get into the game. I think Alfie Doherty had a couple of pops at getting into the box, a few good deep crosses, but generally speaking, it was because they were so deep. They were blunt up front. I think I've just seen somebody make a point on Twitter, which I agree with. We haven't seen anything to worry about really yet, in my opinion. If these are the top teams, then we've got very little to worry about. And okay, we should be scoring more than we are, but there's nothing to worry about in my eyes. I'm not seeing anything from the teams we're coming up against that makes them stand out. Particularly today, I think, although Charlton have a bit of building to do, they have some better players to come into the squad, and they're going to sign players. They don't worry me, and I'm trying to feel upbeat about it, because a lot of teams, when they go down to 10 men and lose a defender, would have folded, and we didn't. We defended quite well, I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, let's move on to player ratings, because I don't want to go on too long today. We'll start off with Lee Burge and Tom. I think I mentioned he didn't really have a lot to do, did he? So
no, he didn't. I mean, for the most part, commanded his area well when he had to. No real hairy moments, apart from one bit where he looked to kick it and just
probably barely right
sliced it,
though, wasn't it? Really?
It wasn't the best pass back to a keeper. So give him a little leeway on that, but he didn't have anything to do, so I just gave him a solid 6.
Same.
I don't think you can down that up rating.
Cool. Yeah. Next up, then, Vahume. He was probably not as good as he has been the last couple of weeks, but he improved as the second half went on, I would say.
I would agree with that, yeah. I gave him a 5 at half-time, because I thought he was very quiet. He was wasteful with the ball early on. He wasn't really getting involved. It's a bit weird, because the last couple of weeks, everything's been going through Hume, and this week, very little went down the left side. And I heard on one of the pods running up to the game that their right back, in fact, their whole defence was very, somewhat kind of cobbled together. So I was thinking he was going to have a field day. But he improved in the second half, I agree. Overall, I gave him a 6, but I think he was as close to a 5 as I've seen him since the start of the season, because he's been quite the star player. But everybody has an off day, and that wasn't his best week, but I think a 6 is fair.
same as what I've gave him. I'm going to give Bailey Wright next a 7. I gave him a 7 in both halves. I thought first half he was again commanding, just did his job like he always does, and he put a huge tackle in on 15 minutes, which we always like. He has at least one of them in his locker every week, where he just goes absolutely miles through a defender, wins all of the ball, but takes half of the man with him. But yeah, he was unlucky not to score as well. Obviously, about half an hour into the game, met a corner which he headed well, and the keeper made a fantastic save. Probably the best chance of the game in terms of a clear cut chance. I would say the keeper made a really good save there, and he was unlucky not to get on the score sheet. So yeah, defended well throughout. And when you go down to 10 men and lose a player, especially a defender, you need your defence to step up, and Bailey Wright did just that for me. So 7 out of 10 from me for him. Tom Flanagan next. Tom, that's yours. He got a red card. Passing was slack.
Yeah. I thought first half he was all right.
Yeah.
He's come off the bat of a good couple of weeks, especially with the pressure on his place. So I had him down as a 6 in the first half. He wasn't the most efficient with the ball, but he wasn't by any means the most wasteful. Thought he was fairly commanding. Second half come out, and it's the typical Jekyll and Hyde performance of Tom Flanagan. Second half, he was wasteful in possession. He was just starting marauding all over the pitch with no real kind of direction or any aim. And although he did get a bit stitched up with a red card, he was unlucky to be left as the last man. I'm not entirely sure what he was thinking. I think at that point, do you just chance letting the defender because the defender's not getting away from him if he anticipates it better. He's anticipated it, he's missed the ball, and then that's why he's taking the man. I think if he anticipates that better, then we're not in that situation. Or he would give a free kick away, but it'd be more likely be a yellow card rather than the red. So for poor second half, I gave him a 3. So all in all, I just thought with a red card, a 4 is probably fair.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, although I did say he had to make the tackle, I think.
Yeah. I think he had to make the tackle, but I don't think he anticipated as well as he could have.
No, well, the rest of the defence seemed to push right out, and he said, which meant they were through on goal because he was so deep. I'm guessing we can probably analyse that in better detail when we see it back, but he didn't have a great day today. Jordan Willis next, Malk. He was quite involved, as you said before. Denver Hume didn't really see much of the ball down the left. It seemed like Jordan Willis saw all of it down the right.
He did, yeah. So overall, I gave him kind of a 6.5 for the first half and an overall a 7. He was involved in a lot of the better football for me. You know, there was a fair few interchanges of passing where him and 09 broke down the right hand side, and you know, a couple of times we saw Scowan get a couple of good crosses in. One of them, the one that Danny Graham really should have finished off. He had a solid game. And as you said, for Wright, you know, when you lose one of your 3 centre backs, for the 2 that are left to still keep a clean sheet and to not go to pot is a pretty good result. You know, I think they had about 15 minutes left, didn't they, when Flanagan went off?
Yeah.
So there was plenty of time for Charlton to get their tails up and try and hunt the win down. But yeah, 7 for me, and another solid performance. Possibly a little bit better going forward this week for me. I agree, Gav, because you know, we haven't seen as much of that in some of the previous games.
Luke 09, I'm giving him a 6.5. I think first half he as we've just said with Willis, we created quite a lot of overloads down the right, and he was on the ball quite a lot. Just had the freedom of the right hand side, really. Charlton didn't really want to get close to him, and he put some great balls in the box. I mean, my biggest criticism of 09 generally is his final balls poor, and I wouldn't say it was fantastic today, but he definitely created some good chances. I think he definitely benefited from the amount of time Scowan had on the ball, because Scowan was hugging the right hand side of the pitch as well, and 09 always plays better when he's surrounded by other players who are concentrated on getting the ball to him, and that was definitely the case. It felt a little bit more probably like the back end of last season when we were just totally dominating teams down the right hand side of the pitch, and I thought 09 definitely benefited from that today. So it wasn't a sterling performance, but 6.5 is about right, I think. But next up is Josh Scowan. Tom, I mentioned him just there. He's played all right today, I think. He wasn't particularly great last week, but he definitely seemed to feel his way into the game today, I would say.
Yeah, I would totally agree, and the scores I gave him kind of reflect that. I gave him a 5 in the first half. Wasn't that I was disappointed with him, but he just didn't seem to get get on the ball. Not a lack of getting on the ball, but getting on the ball in effective areas. Really, he was picking the ball up quite deep, or he was picking the ball up quite close to another player. So we weren't really able to stretch the play too much. Although he did get wide a few times, put a few balls in. Second half, I thought he grabbed the game a bit better. Was pushing the ball forward a bit quicker. Was helping us kind of move it at a decent pace. So all in all, I've given Scowan a 6, which might be a little bit harsh, but that's purely just because I thought sort of in the final third his productivity wasn't quite there. But in terms of going forward, he's definitely grown into a new midfield pairing, which I think is probably why I've been a little bit harsh. Is he's not had near as much football as players like Dobson, Power, in the middle of the park sort of since he's arrived. Was it last January he came in? Mm-hmm. So, he's not had a great deal of football. So I'm fully expecting Scowan, like you see, he's kind of progressed the past couple of games. I think if he's given plenty of time going forward, that he will progress into a key player for us as he gets used to those around him a bit more.
Yeah. Grant Ledbetter next up, Malk. He probably more than any player really enjoyed the amount of space that Charlton afforded us today, I would say.
Yeah, he was running the game from that fulcrum point in front of the back four, wasn't he? You could see he was in a very happy place today. Another solid game for him. Not quite as strong, I think, as last week, but very commanding. He put in another couple of decent tackles. He's grown so much for me. Obviously he had some challenges last year, and I think that made his football a little bit fragile at times. But yeah, I gave him a 7, and I think he might have shaded a little bit more than that. But then I gave Scowan a 7 as well, which Tom gave him a 6. So I think those two are starting to form a decent midfield partnership. Yeah. But there are still some concerns that, and go on to that later on about, what's missing with those two in the middle as well. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for me, and another good, solid place.
Yeah, I gave him a 7 as well. And just to touch on Scowan, I actually gave him a higher mark than both of you. I gave him a 7.5. So I just was quite impressed with the midfield today. Aidan O'Brien, then he was one of the players pulled quite early, and I was a bit surprised actually because he was one of the players getting a bit of praise. So although I didn't think he was as effective in the second half, I thought he played well first half. He was involved in everything, and I just think we look a better team with him on the pitch. Even if he's not the most creative, he just gets on the ball. He's busy, isn't he? He reminds us a little bit of Honeyman, even though he's playing further forward than Honeyman probably did. When he gets on the ball, he's always looking to pop it off to somebody, and he always wants the ball. And those players are actually a dying breed. I think we don't have too many of them. Players who, when doesn't matter where the ball is, he goes searching for it and wants to get involved, even if he's not always at it. So yeah, I marked him down a little bit second half, but only because I thought he didn't really do as much when the play resumed. So I gave him a 6.5. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that, but I wouldn't say he played too badly today.
Not too much. I downgraded him sort of down towards more of a 6, sort of lucky to get a 6, purely because I don't disagree with anything you've said in terms of his busyness and stuff. But when we're lacking in the final third of the pitch, when players like Maguire and such come back, we've got to look at ultimately his productivity at the end of the pitch. And I'm not even sure if he's made an assist, never mind scored so far this season. So he's going to have to start showing, for me, some kind of return to warrant keeping his place in the side. But bar that, he is proven an addition. So it's one of those at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah. First half, Lyndon Gooch, Malk, he was quiet, but then people seem to come around the idea of him playing centre mid. Second half, he did okay. Second half. So where did you score him?
Yeah, first half, I think I gave him 5 because he was barely even noticeable. Which is he's such a bloody he's like chalk and cheese, isn't he? He's either taking on the world and scoring in the bottom corner like he did the other week, or you just don't even know he's on there. I mean, he's very busy, but it reminds me a little bit sometimes of old Duncan Watmore, where he's head down, running around and trying to make a difference, but the outcome isn't brilliant. I pushed him towards a 5.5 to 6 overall. I think he had an okay game. He had a decent shot, I think it was in the second half, where we worked the ball to the edge of the box and he just put it over the bar. You want him to get that on target. So yeah, I think I settled around about the 5.5 for him. Another quiet game, and he's not really doing much to keep the likes of Maguire out of the team when Maguire gets fit, because you know, he's and you know, this has got to be an advertisement for Parkinson to look at the likes of Diamond and think about what these kids can do, because you know, everybody needs rotating around a bit. And yeah, Gooch didn't have a great one for me today, so 5.5 overall.
Yeah, Danny Graham, last of the starters. Tom, he, as we touched on, missed a couple of sitters. Three good chances first half.
Yeah, I've just given Graham a flat out 5. He has missed a couple of sitters, but there's positivities in there for me, especially when you compare him to Charlie Wyke. You know, he has missed a couple of sitters today, inexcusable, because he should be at least burying one of those at a bare minimum. So that was disappointing. But looking at the positives with Danny Graham, for his age, he's full of energy. He looked busy. He looks to handle centre-backs far better. He doesn't give away a load of stupid fouls in the final third, which is something Charlie Wyke's chronic for. So it allows him to stay on the foot and front foot, build a bit of pressure. And also he tends to read the crosses in the games better. So even though he's missing these sitters, he's getting in good positions, which we've got to take the positives from that, because eventually he will start finding the back of the net as long as he keeps on finding these positions. You contrast that to players like Charlie Wyke, which, you know, I'm trying not to drag him too much, but that is the direct comparison.
Yeah.
Is he's getting in positions where Wyke doesn't even dream of getting in, or he handles players that Wyke doesn't really get a grapple of. So while he wasn't at his finest today, I don't want to drag Graham too much, because I do think if he keeps on playing in that positive manner on the front foot and getting in those positions, then they are going to start dropping for him eventually.
Yeah, I'll round the subs off then, just to speed things along. Will Grigg, I gave a 5.5, mainly because he wasn't on the pitch 2 minutes and then had to go out on the wing and do a job, basically. Just had to try and defend while Charlton tried to overload that side of the pitch, bringing Maddison on and so on. And Charlie Wyke, I've wrote down a 4, but I'm now thinking on it, I'm just like, why am I even giving him a 4? He had one important thing to do, which was the 78th minute, I've wrote it down, where he should be scoring. Denver Hume puts it on a plate, and I don't even think he connects with the ball.
Yeah, that cut back at the front post, you mean, yeah?
Yeah.
If neither of you are going to say it, I'll just say it. White was a flat out 1, probably just because he wore the right kit today.
Yeah, well, he didn't do anything.
He's missed
right,
the sitter.
Yeah.
He's ran around. He's not won a header. He's given away 2 or 3 stupid free kicks in the final third. White, come on. Yes, we went down to 10 men, but he did absolutely nothing when he came on. He did nothing right anyway.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you there. Man the match, lads. We'll just quickly go around the table. I've given it today to Scowan. He's the highest mark I gave anyways. Scowan just felt like he did more than anybody else today. Although Bailey Wright probably pushes him. I think getting a clean sheet is important once again, so I'm a bit undecided. Probably Wright, actually, if I'm being honest. What about you two?
Yeah, you've stolen my thunder a bit there, Gav. I had Bailey Wright. You know, in a game where we spurned chances so much, you know, for a quality centre back like him to have, you know, a one-handed top corner save that stopped him from being on the score sheet. You know, we should have loads of other attacking players that should be doing way more of that. But yeah, I gave it Wright. But I agree, Scowan and Ledbetter were up there again. But yeah, Wright for me.
Tom?
Yeah, Wright for me as well. Initially, I was going to say Ledbetter before the red card because he controlled the game fantastically from the middle. But Wright was just solid, 1 headers, 1 tackles. And I think kind of once that red card came, Wright became worth his weight in gold. You know, he kept that back four solid, kept them rigid, kept things organised and didn't lose his head. Whereas maybe, you know, former centre-backs would have lost the bottle a little bit.
Yeah.
Wright's just stayed cool, calm, and everything's just gone through without a hitch.
Yeah. All right, we'll round things off there then. If everybody could join us back through the week, we've got a couple of pods coming your way this week, so make sure you catch up on those. Obviously after Carlisle, I think we'll be doing one because we haven't got a game next weekend. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Obviously, hopefully we'll be talking about another win next time round, because that wasn't great today. Hopefully a few appearances from some of the kids, Dan Neal and Jack Diamond, and maybe even Brandon Taylor get a run out in the next game, because we just need something else, I think. Maybe this is the kick up the arse part he needs to give some of these kids a chance. They're going to have to stand out on Tuesday. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you all down the road.